What is going on, my friends? Mike here, and really excited to bring you guys what is likely going to be at the minimum, 2-part series, maybe multiple part series that we do this week. And this is all based around your summer strategy for fat loss. So the question that I first want to pose to everybody is this: what is your mindset going into the summer? I figure, 6 days from now, we'll be at July 4th. So many of you will be at July 4th barbecues. And then we know that it just continues to spiral as the summer goes along. There'll be more of those coming up. There'll be more of these random opportunities to, enjoy yourself and indulge. So I want to know, what is your mindset as you enter the summer? In fact, you even have a mindset around how you contend with the summer. And tomorrow, when I have Corey Beth here with me, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the mindset part, but we're definitely going to touch on it a little bit today because it certainly does bear importance before we get into the tactical stuff, which brings me to what is your plan for the summer? And then obviously the most important question of all is, will you execute on that plan? So you have to have the mindset, you got to have a plan, but we also know that none of that matters if you do not show up and you do not execute. And that's what I really want to dive into today, is just more of the planning component, right? Get your mind right, start thinking about what your plan should look like, and then let's focus on what we need to do in order to execute on it. Many of you who are part of the Pure Physique family, you finished up your 8-week summer shred. So now what's your plan? We've already talked about this a little bit, and I want to get it just so dialed in and so clear so that everybody knows exactly what is going to lead them to success over the course of the summer. So do you plan on being good? All right. This is diving into this mindset component just a little. Do you plan on being good? Are you planning on, eating healthy, right? Because we all eat healthy, Monday through Friday. Do you plan on pushing through and doing really well on the weekends, or are the weekends just for enjoyment? Are we going to eat more salads? Are we going to eat more fruit? Summertime, we just tend to do those things, right? We also tend to maybe be a little bit more active. So on those nice nights, you're going for all these extra walks that maybe you weren't doing during the winter months. Now, the question though becomes, when you do these things, are you doing them so that you can continue to do other things that you, know, quite frankly, will counteract all those efforts? And I'm not saying this as a judgment. It's neither good or bad in my mind. I mean, this is something that, you have to be just very clear on. Like, why am I doing these things? Will you do these little extra things and be upset if at the end of the summer you didn't make any progress on your goal, or maybe you backslid, right? So do you think that these little things that you want to implement, are these going to be the things that in your mind you feel are going to take you to the next step? Because I'm just going to be really upfront honest. 9 times out of 10, they don't. And depending upon how we plan on treating our summer, depends on how much we fall behind, or whether we're maintaining, or are you going into this with the mindset that you intend on progressing? Like, if you intend on progressing, go ahead and give me a whoop whoop in the comments there. I want to know who's here to actually progress during the summer. Who's here to maintain? Listen, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? But I am pretty certain that nobody shows up with the intention of falling behind. And that's why we're having this conversation, right? Because we want to know what we need to do to not fall behind. Many times when people look at what happens to them during that holiday season, they're always concerned about that big gain that takes place, right? I mean, everybody says most people gain 5 to 10 pounds during the holidays. But the truth of the matter is that even if people do gain that much during the holidays, then they tend to offset it a little bit afterwards. And in the end, they may only gain, 1 or 2 pounds a year. But we stack that up year over year over year, and then we look back 5 years later and we're 10 pounds heavier or more. Well, the summer is actually one of those points in time where we might go into it with the intention of doing all these extra things, or thinking, hey, because I want to have, my body looking right before I show up at the beach or show up at the barbecue wearing like that nice strapless shirt and tiny shorts. We might go into it with the right intention, but do we wind up sticking with it? Or are we just tricking ourselves, fooling ourselves, thinking that we're going to do the right things? And now what's going to wind up happening is when we have those moments, when we have those barbecues, those parties, all that stuff, we do all the other stuff to offset it. And then we come out of the summer in worse condition than we went into it. All right. So are we going to just live it up this summer? Listen, I'm all for it. I am all for it, but I want you to go in with realistic expectations about that. Now, as I said, I will bring Corey Beth in to talk a little bit more on that mindset piece. So let me just get into the tactics, right? This is my wheelhouse. The first thing is, how many of you have calendared out what the summer is actually going to look like? Now, Corey Beth and I sat down just last night, and we did this mainly because we were doing it for the kids, right? We wanted to see all the time slots that we had available to go do some special things with them. And so we laid out, when is this vacation, when that thing is coming up, what do we have planned to do on this weekend? But in doing that, where my mind goes is, okay, what am I going to be doing nutritionally during these periods of time? Because I do intend on living it up. I do intend on maintaining my progress, right? The 8 weeks leading up to this was so that I could be in the condition I wanted to be going into the summer, and then enjoy myself during the summer and still continue to maintain that condition. But that still doesn't come without planning, guys. You still need to plan it out. So when you map out your summer, what are the potential spots in which you could get thrown off, that your routine can get totally put to the side, or your nutrition plan gets put on the shelf? When are those moments? Now, if you plan for that, then you could start thinking ahead. What do I need to do in those days or weeks leading up to that vacation? How am I going to treat it? Now, here's the thing. We all come up with plans, but as we know, you can pretty much guarantee that at some point that plan is going to get disrupted by something or someone. So next, what are the rules that you have when those circumstances come about? So let me give you a couple of examples. A couple of weeks back, we finished up our lacrosse season, and I'm the coach for our son Reardon's team. And the other coaches said, hey, why don't we go out tonight? We hadn't had a chance to do that. Now, going into that, I knew that I was going to be sitting down with two guys who were going to be drinking and potentially eating. My rule for those circumstances is I'm either going to indulge on food or I'm going to indulge on drink, but I am not going to do both. It's one or the other. And when I say indulge on drink, I mean one, at most probably 2 drinks for me. And of course, I'm going to try to choose whatever is going to be, have the least damaging effect. That's typically wine. Maybe it's a hard seltzer. Maybe it's just hard liquor with a calorie-free mixer. But I'm going to choose the thing that's going to be the least damaging. But the point is, if I were to combine the indulgent food along with the indulgent drink, I know where it's going to lead. I know it's going to be a metabolic mess for me that I just created. I know that's going to lead to several days of having to try to make up for that, which we all know we can't do that with exercise. So what do I do next? Now, coming out of that situation, as well as let's talk about another one in which I maybe did a little bit of both indulging in drink and in food, which was this past weekend, which was planned for. But what you do leading up to that point and what you do after matters. This matters so much. So what I did is I made sure leading up to this last weekend that I was even a little bit tighter on the reins with regards to all the things I was doing nutritionally. Exercise never changes, right? So just nutrition. But coming out of it, my rule is that maybe I'm going to extend my fast a little bit more the next day or the next several days. I'm going to go a little lower on carbs or fat, depending upon how I ate during that period of time for the next day or several days. And what determines whether it's a day or several days was the extent to what I did during that time and how long it takes until I reach baseline. Now, what I mean by baseline is, I want to get to that place I was before that time happened, before that party took place. It took me probably about 2.5 days so far to get close to baseline. I would say that this morning was probably the closest I've gotten to waking up and saying, ooh, you're almost there. But I know that I am still probably another solid 2 to 3 days out from being where I ultimately want to be. And then at that point, then everything just goes back to normal. And by normal, I mean what I would be doing on a regular everyday basis. Not being super strict, but also, not throwing caution to the wind. So you have to know what your rules are. What are your rules? I mean, one thing that I've taught people for a really long time is that when you have those times where you are going to indulge, just understand this. Clearly, the extent to which you do it matters. And how many days or consecutive days you do it in a row for matters. But typically, for every one day, it's going to take anywhere from 2 to 4 to get back to baseline. This past weekend, for me, it was about 2.5 solid days of being off the plan, which meant that I expect 4 to 8 days to get back to baseline. So that is going to be a good measure for you so that when you are looking at your calendar, these things are coming up, how you plan for that. And then when those random, right, there's going to be those random, what are your rules for those random moments? I told you my rule is I extend my fast a little more the next day. My rule is I'm going to cut either my carbs or my fats down a little bit more for the next day or 2 days when those random moments come up, because they will. They're not supposed to disappear into oblivion and we never see them again. We're always going to come up against that stuff. But preparation is the key. And that's why we want to talk about this summer strategy, one that you're going to utilize to either continue to progress through the summer or to maintain your results. But the one thing that we will not and should not ever accept is backsliding during this time, because we know that just leads to us being frustrated in the fall. And then the last question that I have for you before I leave you guys is, are you going to execute on it? And how do you know you're going to execute on it? What does your past experience tell you? If you sit down right now and you map out that calendar, if you sit down right now and you map out those rules for those random moments, what makes you believe that you are going to follow through? How do you know that's going to happen? Listen, statistically, 8 out of 10 people, 8 out of 10 dieters try to go at it alone. They try to do it without a support system whatsoever. And without that support system, this is also why 97% fail. And I don't say these things to just scare you, but to just bring it to reality, right? Start thinking about it. If the things I've done in the past, the way I've tried it did not work, what makes me think that this time will be different? So that's the question I have for you. And with that, if you need help with that, that's what we are here to help you do. So let us know, give us a shout, drop it in the comments. You can always message us, but we're here to help you figure out how you're going to make it work for real this time. All right, guys. Well, I'll be back tomorrow with Corey Beth, and we're going to dive deeper into the mindset as we now go into the depths of summer. Take care.